What is going on? Okay. Okay, you're Satini.
What's okay, today?
Right. Was das yeti?
Elwasa, Galchi, Shwa Ekua.
Ich was sag.
Aha.
Okay. Yak. How's it going? Yeah. Get that way. Qashtu atunachi qatuti atki at. Akach achwalqain. Qakan khasatin. Qakan.
Ekudi.
Wasa atnanin. Yak eh. Wachayagu yetaya at qachtuquch. Hechwasa kukusa. Yat geqa. We Sunday shui. Hayagu yikdoa atwatu quch atqa akshatka hayetki. Qawe wutisatin. Yak. Unsa yak aya. Wushchut has aya. Yehaswutin. Aqawe has to hunt aya wutu quch. Oh, yai aya. Okay, ati. Ajoya de wutu quch. Yai wutisatin. Stakata chuchi ati. Qunakhui. Eat. You do a saku at Tlingit enach humpback whale. Yai qoa jadak whale so aqawe mutusatin ke has ya ke yasnan ain aqawe has tu khasego ayashagao aqawe yende aya haswuqaq qual qunakhawe has awha qual yao qual shach aqawe has to it Qunakh owe ke has uwatan tan. Yewe atlain tan wutusatin se. Uke a itch aya qat a de wutu quch. Hechosakur a Tlingit Ziogen Lincoln Island Tlingit enach. Ya ich ki a yeha wutin. It's a hit ye aya wutu che. Tadin qoa gosh. Keikau ka ashuvu. Qone aya cho achadat. Kushta. Has aku eku. Aqawe ach akauch lechek. We kushta. Ye awa a iti a qoa. A tu quch. Ye awa ach tuasaku yin kachwani. Tlingit enach qatleit qach enach. Okay. So help me recap my story here. What kinds of things did you hear?
You say last week you went out on a boat with your kids?
Yep. And wait.
You saw a whale?
Yep. Saw whales.
I was pretty surprised about the humpback whale. I thought the yai was the baleen, huh? No?
No, yeah, it's just whale.
Mm.
And eat is the humpback whale.
Mm-mm.
Well, not too many people use it anymore. But there was a clan called Tlingit. Well, there is a clan called Tlingit. And they're the people of the humpback whale cove. Okay, what else? Anything else?
You're talking about looking into the eyes of a otter?
Not quite into the eyes.
I know, I'm just playing.
Yeah. What did I say about this? And it was what kind of otter?
It was like a river. Well, I would say river otter, I guess.
Yeah, it's a river otter. It's a land otter.
Yeah.
I heard you say about the humpbacks, hastu da segu, their breath.
Yeah, it was really loud. Karsichansu hatuanke hasuti.
Yeah, what?
So it was very pungent. Shichan isn't always stinky. It's just could be a really strong odor. But they were really close to us and they would breathe and then we'd be like, ooh, somebody's been eating fish all day.
Did something happen with your with the otter and your dog?
Not my dog, but
Okay.
we were in a tent and it was in the nighttime. It started about 1:30 in the morning. Has aku eku.
Were they doing their, I know that's probably not crying, but were they doing that sounds they do? That sounds like babies?
It was like a whistle, but it was also like a high pitched, I hadn't heard anything like that before. So they were all like, doo, 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 doo. It was a really, I can't even make the noise. And then there was one on one side and one on and then I was like, okay. I got my tobacco and, you know, I was gonna go hunting in the morning, but I was like, ain't going anywhere because I won't come back, so.
Yeah. They sound like babies crying out here in Cluckwan sometimes. It sounds like there's babies by the river, but it's the kushta.
Yeah, well, I think they make a whistle sound sometimes, and I think it's how they put a thought into your mind, and then they'll start crying if you don't listen to them, or if you refuse. Kashuk kawadai dasa.
Gnalchish. Tlingit nach Lincoln Island. Wasa duasak.
Should we go find it?
Okay.
So let me show you folks. We'll just keep looking at resources sometimes. Let me get rid of some of this stuff. So I'll make sure that you have the resources and you're using them. So basically, there's a few main things that I use to get resources into people's hands. And so one of them is a blog. It's called tlingitlanguage.com. And so basically it's an interface for a whole bunch of other stuff. And lately I've been linking it to a Google folder. So if you click a link, a lot of times it'll bring you to a Google folder or a file within the Google folder. That way, if I change that file, I don't have to update the link, right? So if you go to resources, and then we'll go down to beginning materials. Let's see if I make this a little bigger. So here's all the stuff you should just have in your bag of tools. So the beginning Tlingit workbook, there's a second edition coming at some point. We're gonna go through you can get the electronic version of it now. But it's still being reviewed by some folks at the Alaska Heritage Institute. Tlingit Dictionary, there'll be a printed version coming out pretty soon. There's errors in all my stuff. Sorry about it. I get some hate mail about it, but you know, it just happens. The Tlingit Verb Dictionary by Constance Nash and Jillian Story. The Tlingit Verb Database by Carrie Eggleston. These are a couple new things. Children of the Taku Society is a group out of Atlin that's been doing a lot of really fun stuff with teaching Tlingit. And so they work with interior speakers and capture a lot of really good stuff. And their goal is to teach all through Tlingit. So it's really fun to look at their materials. And as you come down, like here's some slideshows we use for this class. Like how to make the sounds and stuff. The beginning Tlingit slideshow, which was what we looked at with the sounds and then a few other things in there. The questions, this is what we looked at on Tuesday. It's a slideshow. An introduction templates, Here's the classic beginning Tlingit, which is what the beginning Tlingit workbook is based off of. So I just took everything in the beginning Tlingit, and then I just, one of the goals was to replace the English words with pictures, and then another thing was just kind of update how we currently talk about Tlingit grammar. Dictionary of Tlingit by Carrie Eggleston. The Interior Tlingit Dictionary, which has the most nouns. There's more nouns in here than any other thing in print. By Jeff Lear. Tlingit, the phrase book by Nora Marks and Richard Downhauer and Johnny Marks. And then Tlingit, which is comes out of that same sort of type of project. And then here's the audio files. At some point I'll link them all individually, but this will just bring you to a Google folder and you could download them. Weather cards, introduction to Tlingit verbs, slideshow. We'll probably take a look at this. I don't know about today, but maybe Tuesday. And then here, place names. So this is a book of place names that was published by Sealaska Heritage Institute and edited by Tom Thornton. And this just really pulls out the maps and the names. So you could download this to your device, keep it on your phone. That way, if you go to an area, like we can do Control F, and we'll do Lincoln, and see what comes up, and there it is. Nayadi. So there's the name of Lincoln Island. So pretty handy thing to have. Down, if you go down to Ta'ku, up to Ta'kuhini, you'll see there's a whole bunch of these Kudesetsk and what's the other one's name? Watsaseh. And these two are a couple of giants that got into a huge fight. And this one got torn to pieces and thrown around. And that's where all those place names come from. And then you can access like that story about the Taku and those place names. If you go to, that's probably under intermediate materials. If you go down quite a ways, like here is a book of stories by Elizabeth Nyman, transcribed and translated with Jeff Lear. And it's fantastic. It's written in the interior dialect, which we could talk about, the Lear dialect, but also, or the, not dialect, but orthography. And we'll talk about what some of those differences are, but we do have versions of most of them that are typed in the orthography we're using, which I would call the Downhauer orthography. Any other questions? Any language stuff you folks were thinking about, want to share, anything like that?
Cheesh, Nayadi. Nayadi. Do a sock.
Nayadi, yep, that's the child of the clan. Nayadi is also a kinship term. Like, so if my father's people are Kagwantan, so if I meet someone else who's another Raven person whose father's people are also Kagwantan, I could call them Nayadi. So that's another way that that same word can be used. Not to be confused with Nayadi, which is half-dried salmon. So Ishmael Hope came up with a great joke that Nayadi is my half-smoked brother. It's a pretty good joke. Any other questions, thoughts, things you're thinking about?
Yeah, I saw a sign that said "Akate Yena'u," and I was wondering what that meant in English.
Say it one more time, what the sign said.
Akate Yena'u.
Just not sure about the first word. I can't quite. How do you spell it? Oh, you're muted.
You're muted sometimes.
Underlined X apostrophe A-K-E-I-T.
So akate is the word that we came up with, Nakishan, Hans, Chester, and I, for a mask that you would wear, like a protective mask in these particular times. And then yena'u is a verb for use it or wear it. So akate yena'u would be wear your mask as a command. And then, yeah, and so it could also be use it, but in this case, it would be wear it.
Goodness, Chief.
Would it be a KD, yena'u, if it belongs to you?
Yeah, so you would say akadi yena'u. So yeah, okay. And we're gonna learn how to do that. Because there's some rules in terms of possessing things and the types of things that happen and how you put that suffix on there. Okay. Anything else you folks were thinking about?
I'm stuck on a phrase in that video I'm studying of Yesh Kagokan between you and Keochne. And I've been writing down what I hear. Would it be okay if I shared it really quick? So this is the listening journal I've been keeping as I watch the video. And this first 30 seconds I feel is pretty straightforward. And then in the second 30 seconds, when Nora starts talking, I understand what she's saying. Or when she says, you're my grandchild, I think she's saying, and that's why it's okay that you write down my words. But then she says, what it sounds like to me, it sounds like she's saying, and I'm totally stuck. I can't find, I've seen this word before, like I know how to do it, or I learned how to do it. But then with the tlech, I have no idea like which part is becoming negative. And I'm just totally stuck looking up what it means.
Let me look it up real quick.
Okay, I have the video open too. Do you want me to play it?
Oh yeah, because I think, oh, it's right here. Yeah, I mean, so Nora was, yeah, go ahead and play that section. It'd be great.
So this is the beginning.
Okay. Okay.
Just a dog of January, you think, where Tagu.
Yeah, so there's some really interesting things that go on. So once you hear clash and clash, there's some variations in that word. So clash is not, but you might hear clash, hesh, clash, tish. I've heard all of those to just say not, right? And so what we should expect is for the verb to change. And so this is something where Tlingit in English take different paths, right? So for Tlingit, you could say, I know it, I don't know it. So all you do is you just throw don't in front of it, right? It's a very easy switch. For Tlingit, you'd say, chwaseku, kesh chwasaku. So there are two things that need to change in that verb. One is it needs to go from se to sa, and it goes from ku to ku. And so these are some things that happen, just like yati, kesh uti, right? So they change quite a bit, right? Kudziti, kesh kusti. And so in order to predict these changes, we got to learn just a set of rules, right? But one of the things that happens is sometimes you can say kesh, and then there'll be some other stuff in there before we even get to the verb. And that's what's going on in here. So in this case, you'd say kesh, kwa, kach, kat, khwashaguk. So khwashaguk in the positive form is to know how to do something. So khwasaku is to know information, right? So I know the story. Or we used to tease one of my brothers because we used to hang out with these pretty tough like motorcycle guys. And my brother had like Harley Davidson jacket and Harley Davidson shoes and Harley Davidson shirt and Harley Davidson hat, but he never had a motorcycle in his whole life. So they used to tease him and call him everything but the bike, right? So khwasaku, like I could tell you about a motorcycle. I could, you know, tell you like the models and everything. Khwashaguk is like I know how to do the thing. And so there's a difference between those, right? With a lot of things. Like I could tell you all about fishing, but I can't catch any fish, right? So khwashaguk is more like I know how to do that thing, or I have mastered that task. And so here she's saying khwashaguk. And then whenever you get to Nora or so, you're like, they'll take you right to the PhD level. And so, you know, they'll just say something and like, wow, I don't know. That's like, I catch little chunks, but, and it was fun because I got to sit down and work with her on the translation of this. And so once we say kesh, you could say kesh tu ah, and then you can get to the verb, right? And you could say like, so I could say, I'll try and tell you about it, but I don't really know it that well though. So in this case, khwa is when speakers are just really in a flow, the word ku'a will change to khwa sometimes. And that word on its own, ku'a or khwa, can do a couple of different things. It could say this thing, but this other thing, right? So it might give you a little bit of a logical twist. He went there for coffee, but they didn't have any, right? And so it could be sort of the way that the word but or although works in English. It could also be used to call attention to who we're talking about, right? So I could say, I want coffee, but him, her, or him, they want tea. It could also be used if you ask me some sort of question, right? Now I'm just throwing the same question right back at you. So that's kind of the way that ku'a is used. And in this case, we get the although type of thing. And then klach means really, means, right? And so like whenever we interpret anything, a full sentence, a verb, a single word from Tlingit to English, it's always just kind of a rough equivalent. But klach is like really. So this is an adverb. It comes, you know, you say kachik, hey, it's really good, right? Kunach is a similar one, right? And you could have kach kunach if you want to. And then the kat is a particle. So in this case, the particle, it's usually like least of all or after all. It's just a really tiny thing. So, and then khwashaguk in the negative form. So what she's saying, but I don't really know how to do it. And so what this is part of a larger narrative. And so when Tlingit tells stories, they usually they do some stuff up towards the front. And it's really fun stuff when you start to examine different speakers, like Cyril George, when he started telling a story, he'd be like, my grandchildren led me here and they gave me courage. And he'd just say such nice things. And then he'd start telling the story, or they really frame it like, we respect everything. And then you're going to get a story about someone not respecting something and everything's spinning out of control. So in this case, or Kingaste, how he goes and tells you his whole lineage, because he's going to tell the story from his father's people. And he wanted to be careful to make sure that he's not offending anybody. So in this case, she's saying, I don't really know how to tell stories, but I'll tell you just the way I used to hear it. And so there's this raven and the deer story that she's going to tell. And she said she heard it different when she was growing up. So she wanted to tell us how she heard it. And it was in some ways kind of sad, but in some ways really adorable to work with her on this, because she had pretty late stage dementia at this point. And as we're translating it, sometimes she'd say, I don't know what she's saying. And I said, oh, that's you, and she's like, oh, well, I don't know what I was saying there, and so, but then we'd talk it through and we'd get it, because sometimes it was just like she had put herself into this Tlingit thought world. So translating herself was even kind of strange. And it was also fun because that was her life's work. She was the first one to translate the Tlingit narrative in terms of writing down everything they said in Tlingit and then translating it all. What was the first thing that was ever translated like that? Anybody know? Did I tell you folks? Want to take a guess?
Class, speech for the removal of grief.
Say again?
Was it not class, speech for the removal of grief?
Yeah. So it's Nakla, Jesse Dalton, who gave a speech for the removal of grief at a Chukanedi Ku'ik. And it was recorded by Kahani, Rosita Worrell. And so Nora was working on this when she first met Richard Dowenhauer. She was really intimidated by the whole process. And then they finished it, and then they started shifting to stories. And so one of the things was going around and just recording people telling stories. And one of the first ones that she recorded was Tom Peters, who's from Teslin. And it was really fun to just sit with Nora and Richard and to talk to them about how they did all this stuff. And they said some of the things that Nora used to say about translation is the hardest thing she ever did. Sometimes she wished she'd never done it. And one of the reasons, because she would be chasing her elders around and she knew they didn't want to be recorded, but she was trying to convince them otherwise. And she did, because at first they would just really tease her and laugh and say, I don't want to talk to that thing. But then before too long, so she's getting calls from her auntie saying, your uncle's going to die. He needs to be recorded one more time. And so it changed the course of history for the Tlingit language, because we have 500 tapes that she put together for us. And it was kind of funny because they, when they took Tom Peters, so Tom Peters tells them the story about the woman who said something to offend the bear, right? So they call it Hoots Aya Hutliqati. She said something to offend the bear. And then they took it and then they wrote down all the Tlingit and then they translated it. And they went back and they said, well, we want to read you what you told us. And then Richard Dowenhauer read it. So he's a Tlingit. And then Tom Peters listened to him, got super excited, and he said, that's a great story. Let me tell you how it ends. And then he said, I didn't know he could speak Tlingit so well. And they said, no, you said this. We just recorded it and then we wrote down what you said. And he sang 2 songs. And then after he sang the songs, he kind of maybe forgot to tell the rest of the story. So you could listen to the recording if you want. It's spliced together and you can hear it's 2 different sessions. But it was really fun to listen to them tell the stories about how, and so she had recorded tons and translated tons and transcribed it. And so when we say transcribe, that means write down the Tlingit. And we say translate, that means put it into English. And so Chinkasi, to get to your question, would be, I don't know the information. I don't know it, right? Like someone's asking me for some kind of information, like what was this person's Tlingit name? Or where were these people before that thing? Or how do you say this thing? So is, I don't know it. Is, I don't know how to do it. So driving a car, baking a cake, you know, the act of, you know, doing something. So that's where to speak the language, right? So you can, there's some really fun things here, because you could know Tlingit, like I know it, I know, you know, but I don't know how, and there's plenty of people that I've been around who can understand most of the stuff you say, but they can't put it together for some reason. So yeah, and let me show you how those things are spelled as well, and we'll learn how to do this stuff, how to get these spellings together. Oops. Hold on, I gotta get, oh, okay, sheesh. Love to see that. And then you can also, under tlingitlanguage.com, under resources and audio, you could download Nakla and the audio that Nora worked from. I gotta see if Chance can log on here. Anybody have any logon problems? I had to change, I changed Zoom accounts, and so I want to see if that did anything.
I was sitting in the, I think the study session Zoom that you had set up, or the one right before. I was like, am I the only one here? And I was like, I am. My daughter was going, yay, you're the first one there. And then it was like 33 after, and I was like, wait a second.
Okay, so to be clear, this is our class link, but then I set up another link in case you folks want to study, and they have to be different because Advanced Tlingit uses the same link as you guys. So if you came here on a Wednesday night, would be doing Advanced Tlingit, and you can, I'm not going to stop you, go for it. So the other one is more of an open study. It's a Zoom room, it's a Tlingit Zoom room. And so what I'm trying to figure out is how to create like an interface so we can schedule stuff. People want to do game nights, study nights, conversation times, breakfast in Tlingit, whatever you want to do. That's there for Tlingit language use and study. But if you go there during class, you might just be kind of hanging out. So don't go there during our time.
I went to check it out today just to familiarize myself with it and see if I could share screens, because I've never done that before. But it said I needed a pin or something to be able to do that. I'm not sure if that was because I was the only one in there, or, but anyway.
You should be able to share your screen now. There was like I think on their default, it doesn't let you do that. And so it's a little different because like I can set up the Zoom how I want it to be to run it as a class. But then this is technically a separate Zoom account. That way, I don't think I can run 2 meetings at the same time. I think Zoom would get confused. So, but let me know if there's any bugs or anything or any just tweaks that you folks notice, just let me know and we'll try it. Like you tell me, I tell the IT folks and they fix it. But yeah, so we're pretty excited to have that. And so that's just, we're gonna share it kind of publicly, but then I got to come up with a system. So for now, maybe just hit reply all to that email. And if you want to, and just say, hey, I'm gonna come here if anybody wants to study or have a conversation. So just think of things and put them into motion, whatever you want them to be, because the reality is, even in a non-COVID impacted world, there's not very many places to go where you can just speak Tlingit to other people. Not anymore. And so we're trying to just sort of use this as a gathering place, and specifically for the language. So it's not a place to just go hang out, although, you know, if it's language related, fine. I'm not policing it or anything. But there's been times where we set up stuff specifically for, sometimes it's for immersion, and this doesn't have to be immersion. It could be whatever. So, but if you want someone to, and just put a call out, say, hey, I'm going to do this if anybody wants to. And then I'll try and figure out if there's some sort of, talking to IT folks, see if they know of some kind of interface so you can see the schedule of what folks might be doing in there, and you come up with ideas on your own too. So we'll see how it works.
I think a few of us are going to use that link on Tuesday before class at 4:30 to study. We'll use that study link.
Okay, geez. So yeah, there's a study group on Tuesdays, I think you said, at 4:30.
Yeah, we were thinking Tuesdays at 4:30 might work.
Okay. Okay, anything else on your mind? Any questions? Okay. So we said we're going to do Hintak.ádi, water animals. So a similar type of thing. So when we do what we did last night in advanced Tlingit, is we did Kekak-ádi, which was fun. So like I would think of something, and we picked a spot, like I say, on a mountain, right? So someone would think of something, and we would all ask yes or no questions to try and figure out what they were thinking of. It was really hard. So to try and figure out, you know, because you could only ask a yes or no question. So you can't say, what color is it? You have to say, is it brown, or is it white? Is it big? Is it small? Is it bigger than a beaver? It was interesting to see what kinds of things. And so at some point later this year, we're going to start pushing for stuff like that, to move from naming things to describing things, because that's when we start getting into action, appearance, behavior, cultural knowledge, you know. So it's pretty fun stuff to do. But for now, we're just going to name them. So again, let's see, what should the order? I got to establish an order here. So hold on.
I would like to go first.
Oh, okay.
So that I can put one in at least.
Okay. Your request will be.
I would like to get at least one, which is why I'm volunteering.
Okay.
Wait, okay, but I don't know if my pronunciation is great.
Okay, we're not starting yet though, so hold on. I gotta make I gotta make the order that people are gonna go in, just that we have a.
We could just do it really, really fast. Like
Oh.
you just have to yell one in.
So that it's just a free. Well, everybody gets a turn, and then when we start thinning out, then we'll open it up for the free for. We can't just start with a big free for all, because then it won't work. Okay. So I am just typing names quickly without capital letters, and I'm just typing the names I see. And is that everybody? Oh, I'll go last. So then me. So the goal is to not repeat anything. So if you catch something that you think has already been said, or I do, we'll say Deu tua ach. If we're not going to speak English, so if I can't understand what the thing is, which is fine, we might just sort of move along. If at any time you run out of ideas or you can't name anything, you can just say hooch. There's no shame. Everybody wins. Everybody gets orange slices and trophies. We're just having fun. It's just a way to just sort of continue to think about our vocabulary. If you want to know what something is, jot it down and ask when we're done. I will try and think of unusual ones, just so that I'm leaving the more common ones for folks. And okay, that's it. It's just for fun. Okay, good.
Okay. Gaat.
Okay.
On.
Oh.
Chot.
Guy.
Ton? Did I hear that?
Take for tuach. Yeah, you did. Oh, a cut say we kama. Cuisine, eat ko.
Right.
Okay.
Yao.
Cheese. Do eat sakhoaha.
Sao?
Oh, can cheese. Sao again. Okay. Atusa, eat that. Erica, eat koaha. Jackie.
Have to unmute myself. This.
Oh. Okay. Kutchich.
Look.
Okay. Erica, eat koaha. Kosh.
Knock.
Chitra.
Niece.
Okay.
Yahwich. Yahwik. Seattle.
Oh, Yauch.
Cheese.
Okay. Okay.
Ichat.
Cool.
Kunakadet.
Yeah, well, Jackie.
I may have missed the instructions because I'm automatically at the same time. So I'm not sure if it's just mammals or not. Chush?
Oh, Hintak.ádi, so any water animal, any water.
Oh, chush.
Okay, sheesh. Short clank. Sheesh. Emily. Knock.
Cheech.
Okay. Star.
Keith.
Kutchich.
Thaw.
Okay. Erica.
What?
Okay. Jinkasi.
Toots.
Okay. Kuchain.
Luke.
Lukaga.
Is that Coho?
Kosh.
Saw.
Gwashdeo tuach.
Zante.
Okay. Anne. Hintak.ádi.
Oh, douche. The little one. Douche.
Oh, dush. Iksha.
Douche.
Dush. Yeah. Dush is Yishan Dushi. Sheesh. Khatqa. Taqasach tuasaku. Quat. Tegan. Yitqoha.
Okay. Nayadi.
Naidiga. No. Neka. Kashuk.
Kutlek wa.
Okay. Sheesh.
Gosh.
Okay. Cool.
Toots. Toots. Aye.
Deo tuach.
I'll just say ta.
Toots again.
Toots. Kunchish.
Deo tuach koa.
Damn.
Jakutaga. Twasa. Cuisine. Jackie. Again. Deo tuach koa. Twasa. Shawat clank.
Hayashagu.
Okay. Knock.
Yai.
Deo tuach again, Johan. Yeah, deo tuach. Jakutaga.
Yao.
Deo tuach too.
Yauk.
Yauk again. Okay. Star.
Sorry, I had a phone call.
Twasa.
Hintakutsi.
Okay. Kutchich.
Keith.
Deo tuach. Keith.
French. Is it a Yai? I don't.
Yai. Deo tuach. Wait, that's a deo tuach.
Man, I don't know.
Tuasa.
Foul.
Tsaka tsao. Chudechia deo tuach. Atlain watuasa. Okay. Erica?
Tooth.
Toots again? Deo tuach.
Ishkin.
Oh, okay.
Yay.
Ishqinuchi qnach okay. Sheesh. Jinkasai.
Venti.
Deo tuach.
Shao.
Oh, okay. Kuchain.
On.
Con. Okay. Kosh.
Yain.
Yain. Okay. Ya khatqwa qan. Hekhwasaku. Deo tuachi. Ya idet qwa chaltakat yuhan. Dasa kesh wutuach. Chakutetike. Chakuk. Chaasa de tuasaku yuqewatani. Ke ich.
Tas.
Oh, okay. Tai.
Yashu.
Sach zu you do sak. Yakdat ku. Gach.
Today.
True day. Ye awa.
AD.
So ye naka.
Sagadi.
Tsageti. Ye awa. Hintak.ádi. Gwashe.
Yashu Shade.
Yashishe. Sach zu you do sak. Yakdat ku. Dakasa. Zukke. Gwen again. Hintak yenda kinkach. So you do a sock. Okay. Yeesh. Wait, that's it.
Merka.
That's a cuisine.
Geesh or yeesh?
Geesh.
Geesh.
Geesh. Kasu. Kashakask. Kakach. Okay.
Ayedi.
Tayedi. Okay. Wow.
Anybody say Sach?
Ach.
Sach.
What's Tlechwa ach hechwasaka? Yach.
Hooligan.
Oh. Sock. Yeah, away. Sock. Sheesh. Ach, too. Adat you took. Okay.
Das a shrimp.
Sikhat.
Sikhat.
Rubbish thing.
Elhini Gaudan.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Goodness, cheese. Wukecha. Okay. Any thoughts or questions about any of those? Okay. Fun stuff. Okay. That was lots. We could name together. We named lots. Probably like 50, 60, 100. I don't know. hechwatu, hechwasetu. Do the census. Isai kashikit witakach. Kledihin awe. Chechne du klishk. Du chantu o gutwe we census yejnei. Du chahatikach akau de gwash. Kuch. Ye awe chechne klishk hiteshu watan wichahat. Waka. Census soyach tuasagu. Kokre kashikit isai. Just like hach in a awe you watan. Wasai do sak. Yewe do sai kashikit. Kunsa ikatagu. Hokoa. Heltu tu. Aka akaushahit 52. So Nora, she wrote a poem about this one time. A census worker came to her grandma's house and was taking her information, and then said, "How old are you?" And she said, "Heltu tu." It's not counted. So he wrote down 52. Yeah, so let's talk about some pronouns for a second, and we're going to take a break, and then we're going to just start looking at, zooming through the beginning Tlingit workbook. Yeah, register to vote, make sure you vote, do the census, be counted. So when we start talking about pronouns, we talk about things in terms of first person, second person, third person. That's where we start, right? So first person is talking about yourself. So you're going to be talking about me, my, I, those types of things. Second person, talking about the person you are talking to, you and your. Third person is talking to someone about another person. This is the singular they, or she or he. It's a non-gendered pronoun in Tlingit. So when we start these, we'll start talking about these different categories of pronouns, okay? So you have certain pronouns to use, right? This is the whole who and whom thing in English, but in Tlingit, we're gonna have these 5 categories of pronouns, basically. And so we're gonna start with these ones we call independent pronouns, which means they're not tied to anything grammatically. So the ways you would use these ones is basically, where are you? Here I am, right? So gusu wa'eh and yadu khat. The other ways you would use these if you're calling attention to who we're talking about, right? So again, back to kahwe du tuwasagu khat ko'a chayu. That he or she wants coffee, me though, I want tea. So khat ko'a, wa'eh ko'a, hu ko'a, those types of things, or yadu khat, we do wa'eh, we do hu. Okay. So everybody repeat after me. To say me, just me. Say khat.
Hut.
Khat.
Hut.
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 Khat.
Hut.
Hey. To say you. Wa'eh.
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 To say them, the singular they, she or he. Ho.
Huh.
Ho.
Ho.
Huh.
Ho.
Ho.
Huh.
So with our cheikh, with our pointer, even though don't always point at people, but just for practice, we go khat wa'eh ho.
Hut. Wa'eh. Huh.
Khat wa'eh ho.
Hut. Wa'eh. Huh.
Okay. So the second type is we call them possessive pronouns, but sometimes I'll call them relational pronouns because you're talking about like mine, like my pencil, but you can also be talking about on top of me, around me, my mother, my daughter, those types of things. My friend.
God.
So for this one, my is ach. Ach. Ach.
Ach.
Then your is I.
I.
Eh.
I.
Yeah.
What this squiggly line means is sometimes it's E.
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 In this case, either one's fine. And then their, singular their, hers, or his, duh.
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 Ach, I, duh.
Ach.
Duh.
Ach, I, duh.
Ach.
Duh.
Okay. So what I'd like us to do is just one at a time. We'll all do this. Then we'll take our break. And I think I'll just, maybe, I don't know. Everybody just do it once. Okay, and this is what you're gonna do. You're gonna have one finger, because later we're gonna do plurals, and then you'll do two fingers, right? Ooh. So in this case, one finger, and so you go, chat, wa'eh, hu, ach, I, du. You're gonna do those 6, right? Chat, wa'eh, hu, ach, I, du. You got them right here on the screen. Feel free to read them. It's not a test, but it's just good practice. Who would like to go first?
I'll go.
Sheesh.
Oh, go ahead.
It's all good. After you.
Chat wa'eh ha ach I duh.
Sheesh. Atu itzakloha.
Chat wa'eh hu ach I du.
Sheesh.
Chat wa'eh hu ach I du.
Sheesh.
Chat wa'eh hu ach du.
Ach, I, du. Yewa, yeke. Sheesh.
Chat wa'eh hu ach I du.
Sheesh.
Wa'eh hu ach I du.
Yeke.
Chat wa'eh hu ach I du.
Yeke. Sheesh.
Ach, I, du.
Sheesh.
Chat wa'eh hu ach I du.
Okay. Sheesh.
Chat wa'eh hu ach I du.
Okay.
Chat wa'eh hu ach I du.
Sheesh.
Chat wa'eh hu ach I du.
Okay. that everybody?
Chat wa'e hu ach I du.
Okay, ganz cheesh. So one of the exercises we do with this sometimes is if we're all in the same room, we would form two roughly equal lines, and then the people at the front of the line would walk up to me, and one of them goes first, and one of the keys is you gotta like kind of maintain eye contact with the person you're talking to, whoever the wa'eh is, right? And you gotta make sure you go chat wa'eh hu ach I du. Because people they often want to go chat wa'eh hu, so they'll turn to that other person where, you know, it's just trying to drill in like this is the other person we're talking about, right? And so what we're going to see also is these ones we're going to see them in use, right? This first set we're not going to see actually that often. Just ya du khat wa'eh wa'eh kho'a khat kho'a. If I knocked on the door, you can say do so wa'eh khataya khone. It's me khone. Is that you? Yes, it's me. Outside of that, you know, it's usually just used for that or to just clarify who we're talking about. These ones are used a lot. Kinship terms, body parts, owning things, any sort of going towards or away from, on, above, around, any of those things are going to use these. And there's quite a few of emotion verbs that are going to use these. Ach tuwu, ituwu, ach tuwa, ituwa, those types of things. So we're going to move these around quite a bit. And once we recognize which one it is, we're going to start to get really good at switching it within there. So if I know how to say ach tuwu yake, then I should know how to say du tuwu yake, ituwu yake, ach tuwasagu, ituwasagu, du tuwasagu. So we'll spot which kind of pronoun it is. Okay, and so this one it's very common. And then we're also going to learn kinship terms and body parts, and we're going to learn some things about those that involve these pronouns. And we're going to learn 6 more of these, right? So then we're going to say our, y'all's, their, or, you know, us, you all, them, our, you all's, uses, and theirs. Then we're going to get into the verbs, right? And so the verbs is where it starts to just sort of adjust a little bit. And so we'll talk about that after we take a short break. So let's take 5, do what you need to do, come back 5 minutes, and we'll pick up right here.
Okay.
Thank you. Somehow I managed to time it just perfectly when I wasn't even an hour or a half hour. No, it wasn't when I told you. So you got lucky. Okay. So these pens have a notch in it for the tripod. Yeah. And this is not quite in there. Oh. So I'm probably have to wait for it to cool. I think you should probably wait. Anyway, the notch is right there. Oh. And it's not quite there. Not quite there. And of course, so, you noticed it when you had your pen on there. I put the pen on and the thing wobbled. Yeah. All right. So I'm proud of myself. I accidentally was perfect again. You should be. I mean, I'm almost used to it, but sometimes I even surprise myself. Like, well, I hope she stops at some point. And it's like, damn, she's stopping. I'm stopping.
Cool. Hello.
And we have the best people on our side. You probably saw this. An election in New Hampshire. And a lady came to the
Okay. Panea Kwahih. Oops. Okay. So here is the second edition of the Beginning Tlingit Workbook. There's been some changes, like chapters rearranged, one chapter added. We're just going to walk through kind of what each of these sections do. So the first one is all about making the sounds, right? So we did the sounds, and there might be a few sounds that you're still getting a little bit stuck on, which is totally fine. And then the next chapter, and so the next chapter really talks about like how to say like, what's this, what's that, this is, that is, and then you start naming some things, right? So we'll go through these nouns really quick, just in case we need a little refresher, anything like that. Let me move this thing. Okay, and we'll just do them once, okay? Because then there's recordings of them, and the way that Beginning Tlingit was laid out was sort of like the way that Nora and Richard put this together was chapter 1 doesn't introduce any real new sounds for English speakers. There might be a couple of new ones, but mostly they should be pretty easy words to say. But one of the things that we do is we really look at these images, or we think about this thing, or when we see these things in the world, we call them by their names, right? So and that's one of the ways we start to internalize a language, is by switching over and say, like the Maori, they made a list of like 100 or 500 things or something like that they just wanted to use the Maori words for. Okay, first, so also just pay attention to the vowels, the vowel length, the vowel tone. Those are really important. At-da-yi.
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 Tas.
Tus.
Us.
Shawat.
Shawat.
In.
In.
Te.
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 Sate.
Sate.
Say.
Shaggy.
Shaggy.
Tikitkiya.
Tikitkiya.
Hit.
Hit.
Yauditi.
Yauditi.
Or the Tessin folks or Carcross folks, a yumditi.
Yumditi.
Keys.
Keys.
Nukshiyan.
Nukshiyan.
Some dialects. Shukshiyan.
Shukshiyan.
Good.
Good.
Everybody know what a nickel is called?
Tickle.
Good shuwu. Half a good. Right. Whoosh ya ye. So whoosh is to each other or together. It's usually kind of to each other. Whoosh in or whoosh tin is usually together. So whoosh ya ye would be faces together.
So what's the difference when they say whoosh kick yetke?
Whoosh kick yetki are twins.
But the kick part, I don't know.
The kick is at each other's side, or it's the side of the torso. Yeah, either of those two things. So whoosh kick yetki would be they were children at each other's side. It's twins.
Una.
So un is to shoot, so it's the one that shoots. Yai.
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 Yao.
Yao.
E. So the E-E-Y, you're kind of making yourself smile as you say the E sound. E. See you. And then for the Teslan folks, seem. New. Yana 8.
Yana 8.
Ya. Saknain.
Saknain.
So you want to make sure you're getting that right in the middle of it. Cheech. Da. Gao. Gum. Heen. Junwu. Jinwu. Jinwu is the Yakdat people. Jun is some of the Carcross people. Janu is some of the Klukwan people and also the Teslan people. And then Junwu is everybody else. Kakain. Nusk. Sock. Shaw. Tia. Wasus. Yak.
Yuck.
Okay. So then we did a couple of these. I think we did sa. So sa is a voice or the base of the neck right here. Then there's this thing, So is it's a little tiny thing that doesn't have a whole, it's just you're trying to call attention to something. This is part of the little words aya, awe, ahe, ayu. It's also the same type of thing you might put if you're just trying to put a little bit of emphasis on something, like you say, goodness cheesh, So sometimes you'll say it like that just because you're just calling a little bit more attention to it. If you've ever seen somebody receive a Tlingit name, they'll say their name like and they'll say right at the end. So a lot of people might think that their name has that built into it, but it's part of that naming process. So we talked about this stuff. Ya is right here. He is here, but not right here. We is there. You is way over there. And we're going to see these built into a lot of different things. Aya, ahe, we, ayu. Yadu. Heydu. Waydu. You do. The first one's aya, this is. Ahe, this is, but it's maybe kind of unknown. Awe, that is. Ayu, that way over there is. Right? Yadu, it's right here. Heydu, it's here. Waydu, it's there. You do, it's way over there. Has anybody ever heard this one? Yata. Yata. This one, or these ones, right? Hate that one. Wait those ones, or that one over there. And then Utah, that one way over there in Utah, right? Okay. These can, there's also, anybody know what an article is in a language? When I say, what's that? The. Yeah. The or a or n, right? So like if you ever hear like a Hawaiian word and it's got like ka or ke in the front of it, that's probably an article, right? So like kalani is the heavenly. And for Hawaiian, you'd need to put articles on something or it sounds like a name. Although lots of names have an article built into them. Tlingit has no articles, so there's no the or a or n. There's no equivalent for that. Right. But you can use these. So you could say, Yakuhida, this pencil. We kuhida, that pen, right? So you can say ya and we for those types of things, right? Okay. So then we could use these to put together. So what this chapter does is like, dasaya, what's this? And if you're not holding it, you would say kuhida awe. Let's just try that. I guess we'll use kuhida. Kuhida awe.
Kuhida awe.
Right. And then the drill for this, like usually I would have something and then I would give you I would have like a rock, te, and tuss. I'd have thread, like a spool of thread. So then I would hold the thread, I would hand you the rock. I would say dasaya, you'd say tuss away. And I point at it, what you have, and I say das away. You say te aya. So with that drill, you're really focusing on the ya and the we, and also just the what's this, what's that. The way that you can use this is that as you're walking around or trying to show people a picture of something, dasaya or dasawe. What is that? And dasaya, what is this? And dasawe, what is that? And then this awe aya, it is, so, or that is, and this is. Okay. The next thing that the first chapter shows you is gusu, where is it? Right. And so this is one where a lot of people will say we, but you don't have to say we. But you say gusu gao, where's the gao? But most people say gusu we gao, because it's that drum, because it's like some specific drum. So they'll throw the we on there. But then I'll hear some people who the we gets kind of frozen. So they'll say like gusu we itla, but it should just be gusu itla, where's your mother? Or if we're on the phone, gusu wa, where are you at? Where are you? So then that one, this sound means the sound needs to be in the answer. Yadu, hey do, way do, you do, right? It is here. This blank right here is a noun. It could be any of these nouns that we were just learning, right? Gusu hit, way do hit, right? But then what you'll learn is you can also put this onto other things, right? So you could say gusu hu, where are they? And you could say shkunu hu, they're at school. Meishu hu, they're at home. Okay. The next thing this chapter shows you, and we're just kind of reviewing this stuff, ask a question if you have it, because we're just going to kind of go through probably the first half kind of quickly. Right? Ge. So this is how you pose a yes or no question. The ge should be in there somewhere. Tlingit does not use tone to ask questions. It uses particles. And so particle just means it's a little thing, and it doesn't usually appear on its own. Like you can't just say ge, right? Right. It doesn't work. You have to say what the thing is. But this also doesn't just attach to the end of the sentence like a question mark, right? So I could say, Qatke icha, are you eating sakai? Or I could say, icha ge, are you eating? Or are you eating it, I guess? Or I could say, eat ge, yan uwaha, are you hungry? So what you'll learn is kind of where this ge fits in particular phrases. But this is how you turn any phrase into a yes or no question. So then to say yes, and there's several different ways to say it. But we'll just say, ah.
Ah.
And to say no, click.
Click.
Or clack. Which is really TL high-toned AAYK apostrophe. So then when you have the ge combined, so then you can have akya. So now you're asking, is this kuhida akya? Ah, kuhida awe. Wasus akya? Klaik. Kuhida awe. So it's all built on question and answer drills, right? And so this stuff, if we're all in the same space, we could just send this question around. Okay, now you ask them, you ask them, you ask them. Right? And then akwe, is that? Same sort of thing. So usually we have the aya and a we, and we're just focusing on where the thing is. Ya, we, ya, we, ya, we. Those are the first two we really start to drill. I want to go through, and we'll just practice some more of these names. Seek.
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 Donna.
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 Kawut.
Kawut.
Dis.
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 Everybody know the Tlingit name for September?
Base, would say. Like.
This gal.
Yeast this. Disease.
These are good guesses, though. Disyedi.
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 Disyedi. After that, disclaim, right? So disyedi could be child moon or little moon, right? Okay. Keshish.
Keshish.
On.
On.
So this could be, this is usually inhabited land or a town or a really big boat. Niche.
Niche.
Geesh.
Geesh.
Gun.
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 Cost.
Cost.
Shayet.
Shayet.
Heat.
Heat.
Ton.
Ton.
Yain.
Yay.
Gooch.
Gooch.
Nadak.
Nadak.
Kushta.
Kushta.
Douche.
Douche.
Kutia.
Kutia.
Kanes.
Kanes.
Kahak.
Kahak.
Shakiat.
Shakiat.
So this word, ut, it means a thing. So you're going to see it built into lots and lots of words. So we see it, so shaki is the top of the head or the top of a mountain. Na is the upper body. So here you've got top of the head thing, upper body thing. And then the ut will sometimes, well actually really often, turn into 8. So that's where chakate comes from. Ka, ut gets you chakate. Sa'at gets you sate. Dak, el, ut gets you daklawidi. And so there's a whole bunch of clans that end with adi or adi, and they all have ut built into them, which would mean the thing of, then there's some place name right before that.
That's not the same with Yana 8, though?
Yana 8 would be, that's probably the verb for it. It just, it comes up. So yana. So you'd say, ya would probably be say how you say like it grew. But yana 8, it's growing. Yeah.
So that's the same as like Kekanain, the 8?
Yeah.
Jaji.
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 Cajun.
Cajun.
Shao.
Shao.
Shayena.
Shayena.
Tawe.
Tawe.
Tina.
Tina.
Yukaut.
Yukaut.
Or Kayakauti.
Kayakauti.
Anybody know what oot is on its own? Uti.
Kahoot.
The knock has them.
Oh, it's a sucker.
Yep. So this is the, when they gave a name to the button, they called it the man-made octopus sucker. So we went over these questions. So like dasa would be what? Dasaya, what is this? Dasawe, what is that?
National data collection.
Dasahe, what is this? Kind of nearby.
How many is a few?
And then dasayu would be what's that over there?
Okay. A few minutes.
So similar, we've got the was.
Okay, that's way too long.
Questions. So we've got wasawe, How is that? Wasa'iyati. How are you? How is your being? But then sometimes you'll see that these combinations like wasa or dasa, they don't always just ask a question, right? So for example, if you're making a list of things, like there was a story and they said they had all kinds of hides, all kinds of furs. So they say, train awa adugu, hastujiye wutien, coach dugu, ach dugu, nusk du, dasa, right? So that what the dasa does at the end, so they have all kinds of hides. They had, I can't remember what I named, like wolf hides and marmot hides and Wolverine hides and whatever. So the dasa could be like, and these other things. The wasa can sometimes go in front of a verb to just say like, how very cool it was, right? Wasa yek e awa. It's how, it's a statement. It's not a question. But so you'll find some things like that. Like unsa is how many. But when you say it depends on how they're saying it, the context. Like if you said they were there, they were on this island, they were stuck on this island. So I might say, how long were they there? But if I was telling a story, and I said, then they got stuck on this island, that would now translate to for many days, right? So it's just, some of these things, they have almost like a little bit of an open-ended interpretation, depends on how they're being used. Okay, so we did the questions. We'll certainly spend some time going over it again. We did these interjections, these little things about like, thank you, yum, holy cow, or can't even have, you know, there's no easy way to interpret some of these. Hachkwa or chkwa, that's what you get. You know, so we did these, right? We did these greetings, like how to say, ways to say hi, ways to say kind of bye. Again, like I saw Nora and Margaret Stevens in Klukwan. I was at a and they hadn't seen each other for a long time. And they walked up and they just started speaking Tlingit. When there was no, how are you? Good to see you. There was none, they just started talking. And then Nora's like, I'm gonna go. And then she just got up and left. And so it just started and it just stopped. And I think a long time ago, that's how Tlingit did things, but it's okay if we say hi and bye and stuff quite a bit. There's some slang that does go around. Some people say tsuye, and that's how they say like goodbye. I can't say I'm that excited about that one. But if I'm not gonna stop people from doing whatever they want to do. And then we talked about like different ways to say how you're doing. Dasa.
I was just kind of wondering why you don't like the tsuye kwasatin. That's one that I hear the most.
I'm fine with tsuye kwasatin, but they'll say tsuye.
Oh, cut it off. Okay. Yeah.
Kwasatin, which, you know, like keep the verb, but you know, people can own the language too, so people can take control, do stuff with it. I'm fine with that. Okay, so someone help me translate these. Translate them into English. Dasaya.
What is this?
What is this?
Dasawe.
What is that?
E'awe.
This is a rock. Or that is a rock.
That is E'awe. Sait aya.
This is a necklace.
E'awe. Gusuuna.
Where's the gun?
Where's the gun?
Awe. Gusu wekao.
Where's the drum?
Where's the drum or clock?
Yep. E'awe. Yak e'ich satini.
See you.
Good to see you. Now, translate this. This is a, or that is a house.
Itowe.
Where? This is a dime.
Utaya.
Is that a boat?
Yak away gay.
What?
Yak.
Get away.
Oh, aqua.
I would say akwe. Akwe is what we're looking for. Those weren't wrong, but that's the way to put them together quickly. There's a bracelet.
Gisowe.
That would be that is a bracelet.
Redo keys.
Wait, keys. Yeah, what? Is this money?
Gusudana?
Dana ayakwe.
Usudana would be where's the money?
Where's the money?
Well, I want to know.
Dana akya. Dana akya.
Akya. Okay.
And how are you?
Wasa iati.
Wasa iati. So this is one of the differences with the second edition is there's going to be these translation exercises in the back to just sort of look at the chapter. And then there's a little note here. I don't capitalize things for teaching the language unless it's getting into, once we start writing whole sentences and stuff, then I'll capitalize it. The only reason is because some things, just whether it's a lowercase l or a capital I, that gets a little tricky to tell the difference between the two. That's really the only reason. Okay, so on to chapter 2. Any questions? Everybody okay?
Earlier you said gusu we gao, but before that you said we wasn't always needed. You could just say gusu gao.
Yes.
Okay.
But gusu gao would be like, where is a drum? Gusu we gao, where is that drum?
Got it. Okay.
I got one. Is there a left and a right?
Yes.
Okay.
Satnach is left. Shinach is right.
They sound the same. Okay.
Yeah. Unless you're from Teslin, then it's qayenach is right. But they're both
right.
Satnach is left.
Have you ever heard it pronounced as Sinach?
Sina, I've heard it as Shinach, but not as Sinach. But that doesn't mean it's people haven't said it that way. I just haven't heard it.
I heard it's easy to remember because she is always right.
Yeah, well. Goodness, sheesh. And then each of these chapters starts with just a section of language. So, so walking through, this is a good phrase to know. It literally means it went after it, something went after it, but the way we translate it is and then. So as you're telling a story, you want to do a little bit of a time jump, away, and then this other thing happened, right? Kedain. This pops up. This is another adverb. This means to do the verb carefully or to do it well, right? Gachtu shatin, future mode. Gachtu, we are going to. And in this case, we're going to watch it or take care of it. Hakati, possessed form, the soil, the earth, the land. Ha-hakusti, and our way of life, our culture. Ha-itch, following us. Ya hasna'ati, they are walking. Ya hasna'ati the ones who are walking behind us. Hastu, their, Gis, for their possession. Okay. So once we get past chapter 2, every chapter has a kind of a little mock conversation. So sometimes what I'm going to ask you folks to start doing is to we'll do little breakout groups. And sometimes I'll say, practice this conversation with each other, then come back and we'll all listen to each other have this conversation. So basically, someone is person A, someone is person B. Then, so person A has line 1, person B has line 2 and 3, person A has line 4 and 5, and that's just how it goes, right? Other times, later in the semester, I might break you guys into groups and say, make a fake conversation about something. And I'll give you like 15 minutes to come up with something. So it won't always be just me talking and you just repeating. So we're gonna start doing some breakouts and doing some activities. But we're still kind of in the warm-up phase, okay? So just repeat after me and we'll just practice saying. And the other thing that we practice when we do these conversations is David Katzig would come into our class and he'd say, you are not a robot. You can't just say, wasa ieti khatyak e tlingit you know, as we start a language, it's fine, but we can put some emotion into it at some point. And we've had bad acting contests before in Tlingit language class. It's kind of fun. But however you folks want to sort of practice your dialogues. But one of the things is just like, how do we have conversations? And that's what the intent is here. Okay. Wasa ieti.
Wasa ieti.
Wasa ieti.
Wasa ieti.
Khatyak.
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 So this I in front of yati and this khat are the same type of thing. Those are object pronouns. So we're going to start figuring out the differences between objects, subjects. When I'm talking about a verb, what's the difference between an object and a subject?
The dog bit the man or the man bit the dog.
Right, we got to know who did it, right? So the biter is the subject. The bitten is the object, right? So in English, you've got some options. You can move them around, right? I could say, it was the dog the man bit. But now I'm getting a little kind of flowery with my language, right? I got to push the language to do that. English wants to go subject, verb, object, right? The doer did it to them, right? To whoever it is. But it's negotiable. Tlingit is non-negotiable, no exchanges, no refunds, no other way to do it. It must go object, subject, verb. That is how it must go, right? So you would say, the dog bit the man. In that case, you would say, he, it, bite, right? And we'll get to the bit, bite part. But for now, that's the way it goes, right? So I saw her, I saw. It must always go in that order, okay? Tlingit ya achch.
Tlingit
Okay. Let's do this one in chunks. Tlingit.
Tlingit.
Ge.
Ge.
Ya achch.
Ya
Ya achch.
achch.
It's got a real sneaky sound at the beginning, right? So Tlingit in this case is a human being. Ge is the yes or no. You understand. So it's like you can repeatedly hear the mouth of a human being. This is how you ask someone if they can, and it's interesting because in English you usually say, do you speak English? And that's the verb, is to speak. But for Tlingit, it's like, can you repeatedly hear the mouth of it? And it's a human being. And that's how you ask someone if they, there was a guy, and apparently he's from Cake, and I don't remember his name, unfortunately. And he worked at Costco. And he used to check your receipts, you know, and someone said, hey, that guy, he speaks Tlingit. I was like, no way, that's awesome. So then I was working up my courage, and I shopped at Costco. And then he was looking at my receipt, and I said, Tlingit gech ach. And he looked up and he says, chaye gwenk. And then he gave me my receipt back. So he says, yeah, a little bit. And I gave him my receipt. And I was so happy, right? I was just so happy to. So this is, and it's always funny because some people will be like, they'll be like, no. I'm like, and I think it's so funny because I'm like, well, you know that big phrase, right? Okay. Skun ka'idul tu.
Skun ka'idul tu.
Do this in 3 chunks. We're doing 4. Skun. Ka'i. Two. So we did that thing where we said 1, 2, 3, right? First person, second person, third person. Me, you, them, right? But Tlingit has a 4th person. So the 4th person is someone or people, or in some cases, something. So in this case, ka'i, 2 people, tu, it is taught. So both of these are 4th person pronouns. So there's quite a few more than just the sort of 1, 2, 3, because then we'll pluralize them, that'll get us up to 6. Then we'll add the 4th person, that'll get us up to 7. And then there's a few more once you start really learning Tlingit. We'll just keep opening the curtain, like there's more, right? But so here we have yes, at school. That's what the is doing there. Ha'idul tu. It's being taught to people at school. Suye ekwasatin.
Suye kwasatin.
Suye ekwasatin.
Suye kwasatin.
So in the middle of this, you've got the kakwa. So when we're talking about the future, gach tu is we are going to. Kakwa is I am going to. Those 2 K's in a row. K back K W A. Kakwa. Right? And so we'll just start learning. For now, we're just spotting these patterns. By the end of the year, we're going to be putting all these patterns together. So I'll be able to show you a verb and I'll say, tell me how to say I'm going to do that. And then you'll know how to do it. Let's do this one in 2 parts. Gu'ash kshe.
Gu'ash kshe.
Yewutik.
Yewutik.
Gu'ash kshe yewutik.
Gu'ash kshe yewutik.
We've got yewutik. Anybody know how to say this? So if we took the gu'ash kshe out of there, which pushes it into this kind of unusual form, if I were to just say this verb normally, I would say yeyeti.
Oh,
it's the same.
Yeyeti.
When we say gu'ash kshe, the next part of the verb needs to change. And the guashkshe means I hope that this verb happens. But then it's a kind of unusual form, which is usually what we call like the prohibitive, like don't do it, right? And so like if I were gonna say don't be good, I would say which would be a weird thing to say, like don't be good. But I would say guashkshe so then in that case, I would take that sort of part of the verb and say, I hope you're good. I hope you're good. That's kind of an advanced thing. But for now, this to get combined means, I hope that's how it is. Right. And so in other words, I hope so. Hande ijin.
Deijin.
Hande ijin.
Deijin.
So hande is like, just give it here. Right. Gunashish.
Sheesh.
Okay, so we'll pick up here on Tuesday. So Tuesday, we'll just jump right in with this part, zait, saw. We'll probably at some point break you folks into some pairs so you can practice this dialogue and then perform it for us all. And any last questions or thoughts? Everybody doing okay?
Do we have a homework assignment for next week?
Well, let's see. You should know everything in the next 2 or 3 chapters. So I would say if you can get all the way through chapter 4, that'd be great. So up through the weather. So we're just gonna push through 2, 3, and 4. And then we'll do a few concept things. So like in beginning Tlingit, we spend a lot of time just drilling this stuff and trying to memorize it. Intermediate Tlingit, we're gonna look at this and say, you're gonna get ready to study this stuff at all the little parts that are all in the inside. So if you can make sure that you know everything you can, you should be able to count to 10. You should be able to, if I showed you a picture of anything in these first 4 chapters, you should be able to tell me its name. So that's your assignment. Let me know if you have any questions looking through that stuff. We're going to talk a little bit more next week about what is imperfective, perfective, future. What do those terms mean? Why do we use them instead of past, present, future? Yeah, okay.
2 small questions. One, I had a teacher ask me, is there a difference between writing Tlingit and Lingit? And I referred it to Tlingit Yuchetangi with just the L, but so many people write TL, and I don't know. That's one question.
So, well, the history is, people show up here and they say, who are you? And when the old people figure out what they're asking and say, Tlingit, I'm a human. And so they say, Tlingit, and say, Tlingit, Tlingit, Tlingit. Oh, well, let's write that with a T and then spell it with a K. So the spelling is off and the pronunciation is off. I think we should all just transition to Tlingit and just do a little hard reset on the whole thing. But some people want to start the war over it because there's a history behind the TL and the KL sound. So I would recommend Tlingit. But the general practice that's being used now is if we're speaking and writing in Tlingit, we'll say Tlingit, write it with the L. And if we're speaking and writing in English, we'll say Tlingit and write it with a TL. So someone else go fight that battle.
And then the next one was the difference between Ziogen as in being later and Zeagan as in see you later, because I'm working with a teacher who says Zeagan to her students, and I'm like, wait a minute, that means a time reference later, not tsuye kwasatini, I'll see you again, Zeagan later. So,
yeah, so Ziogen is a little bit of, again, slang, so it's using this thing, because it is a time reference, and so like Ziak is a little while ago. So I could say Ziak oe, hoach, isai, so a little while ago I heard your name, but now I forgot it. And then Ziagen away, after a little while, we're going to go to the store. Ziogen is really fun because one of my favorite things to say to my kids, because I'm like, can I do this? I'll say Ziogen. And they'll say, does that mean tomorrow? I was like, does that mean later? And, their negotiations continue.
it means we'll see. Yeah. Okay. So is it safe to say, let's not teach the students to say Zeagan?
I think it's fine as long as they'll pick it up later that it
Okay.
It's a short form. It's sort of like when people say later to say goodbye. That's totally fine. There's some things where that might be just coming from English. But I think it's fine.
I just want to make sure I'm not teaching them blatantly wrong. That's great.
A question about skunk. Skunk. When I think of that, I think of like the same thing as shawat. Yeah, I know it's a K, a pinched K, right? Rather than a pinched X. What are those called at the end? Because I've heard a lot of the pinched K in many things in like a possessive, referring to somebody small.
Yeah, it's a suffix. So the tricky part is there's the pinch K, which makes anything small. So khleq is a red snapper. If you look at Chilkoot Lake and you're looking at Chilkoot Lake from the river, on the right-hand side is a mountain called khleq.
Okay.
Snapper, right? So and that's what that one is. There's two of those ones, the X apostrophe, and they sound exactly the same. And you'll just figure out which one it is. One of them means at, to be sort of resting or residing at. So you could, in that case, shkun, at school. They could also be a time marker, ta, in the winter. On Tuesday, right? But then there's another one, which is plural. So you can say douche cats.
And is there like many more of those aside from those two?
There's not a whole lot, but there's probably about 7 of them maybe. But most of them are saying like where something is or where it's going, or but what the plan is, we're gonna burn through the beginning Tlingit workbook, but also like if it's going too fast, just let me know. It's okay. Someone told me one time, I had a teacher and he would write stuff down with his right hand and erase it with his left hand, going across the board. That's how I feel in your class. And so I don't want you to feel that way. But I do, this is not beginning Tlingit, so we are gonna kind of go through it just to get us back into the study mode. Maybe we had a long summer without much speaking. Maybe it's been a while, who knows? But then after that, we're gonna move into what intermediate Tlingit we're gonna do is we're gonna learn how to modify nouns, to make them small, big, to pluralize them. And then we're gonna start looking at all these different things and like towards, away from, and so you're right on track asking questions like that. We're gonna, I'll answer it now, but we're gonna get to it with some specific lessons.
Cheers.
Okay, gonna cheese, Johan. Mushigachtustin, Ziogen.
Goodness, cheese.
Gonna
cheese.
Okay.
Got a quick question.